This is Conversations with the Citizen. I'm your host, Tia Carol Jones. I'm here today with Diane Johnson, the creator of Diane's Medical and Dental Health Journal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much for having me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm Diane E. Johnson, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I went to Dunbar High School. That's where I met my husband. We've been married 57 years and 3 children, 5 grandchildren. I worked at Chicago State University for 25 years. I also was a student there, majoring in business education. And those things to me are very precious to my family. So.
Okay, very good. Why did you want to create Diane's Medical and Dental Health Journal?
Okay, well, it started in 1986. Our oldest son, Lucius Jr., and I've just been able to say his name, even though it's been 24 years, it's been hard. But he came to us in 1986 and told us he was affected with HIV. Back in 1986, the internet, the information was not the way that it is today. You could Google so much information about AIDS and HIV. But this took a span of 10 years before my husband and I were able to get involved, because he said, I'm going to do this myself. Okay. We don't even know if he was being medicated by another doctor. But in 1996, when his HIV turned into AIDS, then we took action. Okay. We decided to take him to our hospital, University of Chicago, and the only thing they could do at that time was make him comfortable. Okay. And the doctors always said, there's not a cure, but we can maintain the illness. So we did that for 3 years until he made his transition. But while we went to the University of Chicago, the doctors spoke in a language that my husband and I couldn't understand. My son, however, was able to understand some of it, but I just took a simple ledger pad, a long ledger pad, and I just started writing. I filled up 2 ledger pads of notes so that when I went back to the doctor's office, I could understand what they were saying. And then the worst thing that could happen to an employee is when your job changed insurance companies, and that's what happened. There wasn't a my chart back then. They just said, what information do you have from the other doctor? And I just smiled. I said, I got my ledger pad. Okay. So I opened up the pad. I started giving them information. I took a photocopy of the 15 medications he was taking, and they said, well, we're going to change those. Well, how do you know what's working if it's 15? So we just had to play a game of taking some away and putting some in. But he made his transition on October 1st, 1999, and so that was the first start of me trying to I didn't even think about writing a journal at that time. Those notes just laid somewhere for years, and that's how I came up with the journal itself. Following that, I joined in 2008 an organization called the Chicago Black Inventors, and they reached out and said, Diane, do you have an invention? I said, well, not really. I just have some ledger notes. And one of the ladies said, well, why don't you make it into a medical journal? I didn't even think about that, but I took those notes, and we had a convention at DuSable Museum, and I felt so honored to have my name called out in DuSable Museum with all the other famous people in the world who have gone before me. But I did feel that this journal was going to help people, and then I was able to get an investor, and I published the book.
Okay. So what will people find in the journal?
In the journal, they will find 5 chapters. There's medical, dental, family history, prescriptions, and notes. And if I can explain each one, in the medical section, when we visit our doctor's office, we need to have a journal so we can record the information that the doctor gives us. Because when we leave the office and a family member says, how did the appointment go? We say, I don't remember. And also in the medical section, there's a place to write your vital signs. When you walk into the doctor's office, your heart rate, your temperature, your weight. And you go into the doctor's office and they write it down, and then the nurse walks back out with the book. So you don't really know those numbers. But if the numbers continue to go up, then you have to change something in your medication or in your diet. The second part of the journal is the dental journal, the dental section, and brushing our teeth twice a day, gotta do that twice a day. And this is what happens. We got these perfect set of teeth, and then we start losing them because too much sugar, too much candy, and then we have to go get some type of implant to put them back. And we have to floss. We should floss every day. That's the dental section. In both the dental and medical section, there's a line there for 3 questions that we never remember to ask the doctor or the dentist. And we get home and say, I forgot to ask him that. So you write them down before you get to your appointment. Now we come to the medical history section. This section is so important. I was listening to TV yesterday, and Johnson & Johnson products said, before you can know your future history, you have to know your past. So I would say, have a DNA party. Invite your family, get a journal, and write down anything that someone had in your past, maybe kidney disorder, breast cancer, diabetes. Those things are good for your children as well as your grandchildren to know.
Okay.
There was an article in the Chicago Sun-Times about a young lady who got breast cancer, and she asked her mother, she asked her father, and they said, no, none of our family members had breast cancer. And then one of the sisters said, you know what, I think grandmother had breast cancer. And so she found that out, but perhaps had she known that, she may have been asked for an early mammogram, and that could have, she didn't die from it, but that could have kept her from going to all type of tests and radiation for breast cancer. And then we come to our prescription. We all use prescriptions. Most of us do anyway. Children, babies, teens, everybody has some type of illness that they have to be prescribed a medicine for. And we say, I don't want to take medication, but it saves lives. But this is one thing that I want people to see. On this prescription bottle, there's white space on every bottle. Just write down what it's for. Kidney, heart, diabetes, high blood pressure. So when you go to your pills, your prescription bottle, you look at the bottle, you say, oh, this is for my heart, this is for my kidney, this is for my diabetes. It's a little thing that means a lot. And then the last part of the section is the note section. The note section is why I'm here today, because that's what I did. I took notes for 3 years for my son going to his doctor's appointment. It's so important to write it. My tagline is write it and then it's history, because then you won't forget about it. I want to go back to the family history about the DNA. People think DNA means do not ask because they don't want to know. But in some of our families, we don't really ask about our DNA. We just take whatever life gives us, and we say, oh, so-and-so has diabetes, and we don't even think to go back and say, you know what, Aunt so-and-so had that. So I'd like to add that in there for the DNA portion of it. But the journal is a comprehensive journal where you won't find anywhere. It has 5 sections. Most of the health journals have a medical and dental, or they just have a journal that says, write all your information down, but it's not separated the way my journal is. Okay. It actually gives you space for each one and enough space to write information. Some of the journals are very tiny and you can't really write in the line, but mine has plenty of space to write. So that's an explanation of my journal.
Okay. Thank you for that. How long did it take you to create the journal from idea to publication?
The idea came in 2008
Okay.
when I joined the Chicago Black Inventors. It took me a year. I worked at Chicago State University in the graphics department, and one of the ladies there said, Diane, let me design your book. it was nothing like this. What I wrote, it looked crazy, but it was what I could do with my artistry. I'm not an artist, but she designed the book. I got an investor, and I put the book out there. My brother asked me to go to a Walgreens in Hyde Park. He says, I know the manager there. As soon as he saw the medicine bottle, he says, I'm going to put this in the store. He put it in the store, and I asked him for a referral. I wound up in 15 Walgreens stores. It was there for 2 years, and then the digital age came. Everybody wanted something digital, or they didn't want to write anymore. And now things have changed. People are now starting to journal, so it's just the way the cycle of life goes. Things change, but it took me about a year and a half from the idea to actually having the book published.
Why is it so important for people to take control of their health journey?
Taking control of your health makes you feel empowered, that it's not the doctor who tells you what to do, it's you telling the doctor what to do. He can give you medication, he can prescribe tests, but those things will save your life. But you have to speak up and say, this medication is making me lethargic, I don't have an appetite, I'm sleeping all day. And the doctor may change the medication, he may tweak it a little bit and bring down the grams. But when we empower ourselves, when we go into the doctor's office, we just can't go in and give ourselves up to the doctor and say, well, I'm not feeling well and I'm on this medication. The doctor's not going to say, can I change it? You have to speak up. So when you journal your information, before you go into that doctor's office, you can open your book and say, the last time I came here, I told him that I didn't know if this medication was going to help me, and it's not. So I've got to speak up. So that's why I feel that journaling empowers you for your health.
Okay. So the journal is now in its 3rd edition. How has healthcare changed since you first created it?
Oh my goodness, it's changed so much. The first edition was my own personal edition.
Okay.
I started writing in 1986. I kept a journal for my 3 sons and my husband and myself in one book. And we go through it sometime, and I'm like, this is crazy. I wrote all this stuff down. But I had 3 athletes. They were in football, baseball, they were injuring themselves, and I was writing it down. The strangest thing is, my sons all had leg injuries.
Okay.
And sometime in the future, they would say, Mom, what leg was it that I injured at football at school? And I would say, it was your right knee or your right leg. You say, this still bothers me, because I wrote it down back then. And then the 2nd edition was the one that I had in Walgreens. The 3rd edition is what I've done. I've revised it. I put more information because of COVID. New clinics were created just for COVID, long-term COVID. Breast cancer seems to be more rapid now. So that was the reason why I wanted to have people journal their own health history, for that very reason.
Okay. What has been the response from people who have used the journal?
I've gotten so many positive response on my Facebook and on the website. People have used the journal and said it really, really helped me to go into the doctor's office and open the book. The 3 questions was the main thing. I wrote those questions down before I went in, and they said, we really appreciate the journal because it has so many sections which represent so many facets of our health history, not just one, not just medical, and not just dental, but all of them. Most of them say, when I go to my first primary care, the first thing they say is, tell me about your family's medical history. And what they do is they turn to that section. They say, well, I have a sister that had diabetes, and I had so-and-so who had breast cancer. That helps the doctor know what you could potentially get, or your children, or your grandchildren. So most people who have purchased a book have purchased another book for another family member. So it's been a positive feedback from that.
Okay. Where can people go to find out more about the health journal and purchase it?
Okay, you can go to dianesjournals.com. There you can purchase the book as well as read about 8 blogs that I have. Each blog talks about the section, and some of the blogs just talk about health in general. But dianesjournals.com, you can go to that website and order the book.
Okay, great. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like our audience to know?
Yes, when I joined an organization called PSBS, it's a private small business society. It's a platform for people to come together. We post every day. We talk about our businesses. There's over 450 modules of videos that you can watch about your business. It gives you the feeling that there's nothing that I can't do without this organization, because I go to one of these modules and it fits my situation about my business. And you sit in the comfort of your home for 15, 20 minutes. You can create your ebook, you can create your website, because I did the same thing with this organization, PSBS. So I'm really indebted to them for bringing me to that organization and helping me further promote my book.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Conversations with the Citizen, the place where real news can be heard. You can listen on iHeart, Spotify, and iTunes podcast streaming services.